Hey there, it's Val. Welcome to my bullet journal setup for 2024. This year I'm using the same journals for both my reading journal and my bullet journal because over time I have realized that I'm not using my reading journal as much and it will be more efficient for me to just use one journal. Not only does it make keeping up with stuff easier, but it is just more convenient to have one notebook and use it for all of my planning and journaling needs. So without further ado, let's jump right into the yearly spreads. The theme for this is very loose. I did not have a specific theme in mind for my yearly setup. For my monthly setups, however, I plan on doing specific themes. I will be picking a book series, or an author for each month, and I'll be basing my spreads around that particular theme. For my yearly spread though, I decided to just keep it very loose. I have a colour palette in mind though, which will have a very neutral purple, some beiges and browns, some neutral olive greens and a very dark red. And I'll just try to keep the overall theme very vintage and a little on the dark academia side. I'm not using all of the dark academia colours though, because if I were doing just a dark academia theme, I would be focusing more on using browns and goldens and blacks and some very dark neutral colours. But here, just to add a pop of colour, I've decided to use some green, red and purple in the mix. So I sketched a portion of the human skeleton with the rib cage and pelvis. It is again very random and vague, but I'm really interested in biology, so incorporating some sort of anatomy elements throughout these spreads kinds of adds a personal touch to it. I continue by sketching some leaves of ivy around the skeleton, and I've also doodled random flowers, and I have a heart in the middle because why not, and a lot of random leaves and a few loose attempts at drawing roses. I'm using very dark shades of green for the leaves, and I have again used a very dark red for the heart. I'm using a beige for the bones, and I'll have some neutral shades of pinks and lavender for the flowers. I've also used red for the rose, so we can just simply see me using all the colours I selected in the beginning, and these will be scattered across the colour scheme throughout the setup. So to put together my cover page, I glued some torn up brown paper in the background, Then I glued my painting on top of it using some washi tape to secure it and add to the aesthetic. Then I'm writing the year 2024, basically freehanding a Gothic font, which is why it does not look the most aligned, but I really like the freehand feel, and because I had so many spreads to do, I genuinely could not like freehand most of the time. Then I'm adding in a few sparkly doodles, which you'll see scattered across my spreads, because I really do like adding these and having some sort of element that adds to the cohesiveness across the spreads, even if the theme is very vague. And then I'm doing my 24 things to do in 2024 spread. I divided my 24 things into 5 categories, and I am pasting a picture related to each category in the middle. Later I will simply add branches from these categories to write the 24 goals, and then I'll split them into sub goals to make them seem more achievable. My year at a glance page in retrospect is not going to be of much use to me. I ended up gluing 2 calendars with 6 months each to the separate pages, and then I added small little panels of dot grid paper on top, which I can use to outline any monthly events. I also ended up drawing envelopes over them in an attempt to salvage the spread, which I'm not going to make much use of. And after I had finished setting it up, I realised I might have to switch up the layout for future setups. Here we have my year in pixels setup using the same calligraphy, a random receipt I had, and just some random gift wrap paper. With some washi tape, I put together one of my most functional spreads in the bullet journal. As I'm using a blank notebook this year to give me complete flexibility, it would not have been ideal to draw the grids by myself, so I printed them out. I'm doing 4 of these. So for the habits I want to focus on year around, I'm doing yearly trackers instead of monthly ones. I have one for health, reading, music, and I left the 4th category empty in the beginning, but later I ended up adding a fitness tracker to track steps walked every day and any workouts. For the health category, I'll be tracking any symptoms or any periods of illness over the course of the year. As for reading, I plan on trying to read every day, and this tracker is just to track how many minutes I'm reading. I have an option for less than 30 minutes to begin with, because I know it can be very difficult for me to find time to read on some days. But even if I read like 10 minutes a day, I can colour the box and check that goal off. So I start with less than 30 minutes, and then I go all the way up to more than 3 hours for those days when I end up finishing a book in a day. Moving forward, I've got 2 very personal spreads. One of these is my 2023 wrap-up, which will be showcasing any shows, movies or books I liked, any events I attended, any special memories, friends I made, places I went. It's just going to be a wrap-up of the year, and I'm just keeping it fairly blank, just adding 2 washi tapes to divide the page roughly into 2 columns. And then I have my things to look forward in 2024 spread, which is pretty self-explanatory. Next is my birthday setup. So I just cut up my brown paper into squares, and I'm again doing one of my Dutch door spreads, so I just have to write the title once. In all the gift boxes I have made from the craft paper, I will be putting in any birthday dates I want to record for the particular month, and then I have my presents page where I can just put in any present ideas I have. I just find it to be a good way to sort of keep track of birthdays coming up and to plan out any presents. Next up is my ideas spread, and this is basically for my social medias. I have freehanded the same sort of gothic font for the title, and then I have added a YouTube and Instagram logo doodle just to highlight that I'll be focusing on social media for this idea spread. I have divided the page into 4 columns. We have serial numbers, the idea itself, and then we will have a tentative deadline, for example, because some posts can be time sensitive, right? So for those sort of ideas, I'll be putting a deadline for execution, and then the last column will basically be the date I actually end up executing a particular idea. And here goes my social media stat tracker spread. I have got up a few rectangles from the same paper I used for the presents, and I'll be gluing these on the page and turn them into envelopes to keep track of followers or subscribers on my different social media channels. So I'm doing one section for my YouTube, one for my Bookstart, and one for my Artgram, and then I'll just turn these into little envelopes to put the spread to use. On the flap, I will end up writing the actual number I'm tracking, for example, the number of subscribers or followers, and on the bottom part of the envelope, I will enter the date I actually ended up hitting that subscriber number on, so I can basically use this to either track goals or just keep track of subscribers. So I could have, for example, as a goal 100 subscribers on the top part, on the flap of the envelope, and then the date I actually end up getting 100 subscribers, I'll put the date in the bottom part. Moving on to my reading trackers, this is my yearly bookshelf tracker where I will be putting in all my reads for the year. I pasted a frame I had printed earlier in the corner, and then I'm doodling books, candles, flower pots, vases and plants throughout the page. My reading goal for this year is 75 books, and it was 75 the previous year as well, but I ended up not hitting it because I got very stormed with uni work and I could not keep up with things, but hopefully I'll be able to keep up with them this year. Keeping the anatomy theme going, I also added a skull on this page. It does not look the most anatomically accurate, to be honest, but it adds a bit of spooky flair to the library and I really do like that. And then at the end I ended up adding a key based on star ratings, so it goes all the way from 5 stars to DNF, and I have spaced them around 10 colours to make the library very colourful. For my book bracket spread, I doodled a trophy on the top because it basically symbolises what the book bracket stands for picking the best book of the year. If you're not familiar with what a book bracket is, basically we just pick one favourite book from each month, and then we pick one favourite from 2 months, so we get 6 books, and then from these 6 books, and these 6 books are shortlisted to 3, and the 3 books we get as a result compete for the crown, or in this case the trophy. The last one is my A to Z tracker, for which I drew 26 circles across the page using a used washi tape rule. Then I'll be writing all the alphabets from A to Z on each of the circles, and as I keep reading books, I'll keep filling in the letters, and I'll try to make sure that I have read one book starting with each letter throughout the year. So 26 alphabets in 75 books, I think we can make it. Then comes my movies and series tracker. We've got 4 columns for this one as well. Of course, we've got the serial number to begin with, then we've got the date I finish, then I'll put in the name, and then I'll add any thoughts I have regarding the particular movie or show. Lastly, I'm just adding some study trackers to finish my setup off. I added a bunch of these, but I did not have the footage from all of them. These are basically courses I'll be revising, so I put up the topics on the top, and then I have little boxes that I can fill in as I keep completing these particular topics. So it is a very visual tracker, and I found that visual trackers help the best when it comes to things that you might not find as interesting to do. And here we have our final flip through. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you in the next one.